Drop it.
Drop that beat.
All right, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Life Speaks. Of course, this is your host, Luis Perez, a.k.a. Wicho Breach, a.k.a. Demon Killer. If you know, you know. And my co-host,
Casey Case.
Tennessee
representative.
Yes, Tennessee representative.
Holding it down in UC.
Yes, holding it down in UC, Greater Randolph area. And real quick, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to all our sponsors. First sponsor is
510 Architecture and Design.
510 Architecture and Design and
architecture. All your architectural needs. You shout out to our boy Daniel Martinez, he has got your back like chiropac.
Yep. And so his information is there on your screen. Also, I want to mention the Choosing Hope Foundation. So the Choosing Hope Foundation, as I've mentioned before, you already know, is primarily but not entirely rooted in the prison ministry and then into parole ministry.
Parolees, what's up?
Yes, shout out to all the parolees in the parolee section. And, we forgot to talk about the parolee section with Angela.
We have one.
And we have a parolee section.
Come and see us. We'll
you don't
direct
have to sit
you
there,
to
but you can if you want to. So Choosing Hope Foundation, prison parole ministry, working with men, women, all these people, trying to help them get back, their life in order. Yes, the church, Jesus Christ, deliverance, salvation, all that included as well, but extends further into homelessness, working with homeless people, working with battered women.
Yes.
And you will understand why we work with these people as you hear these testimonies, things of that sort. And also now, and one of the focuses that I forgot to mention, and I mentioned in the last podcast we did with Angela, was, focusing on suicide prevention. Suicide is a big deal.
Yes.
And we understand the spiritual dynamic of what we're dealing with, the drug addiction, all this stuff, prison, parole, homelessness, drug, everything that's included. And the suicide prevention aspect of it is also a spiritual thing. And we understand the spiritual connotation of that. But the focus of the foundation is also to work to help those people. And the way we help those people is, one, through our efforts, yes, but primarily preaching Christ and letting them know that there's hope through Jesus. But we understand that beyond the spiritual dynamic of salvation, there's got to be something to help. You know what I mean? And so that's what the foundation comes in to.
You're
work
not alone.
And work with them and help them get established and be productive in society.
Yes. And
so that's the Choosing Hope Foundation. You want to join, partner with us, and give to help the foundation. Of course,
we'll shout you out.
We'll shout you out. It's appreciated. You want to become a sponsor, you can. There is going to be a button there pretty soon on our website for Life Speaks, so that you can give towards that. And we're working on that right now. I know several people have contacted us wanting to donate and be sponsors and help fund the foundation. We're going to get that going real quick. Of course, the Potter's House Christian Church, our fellowship, Christian Fellowship Ministries, particularly our church, the Potter's House Christian Church here in Universal City, Texas, which recently our name changed to the Potter's House GRA, or the Potter's House Greater Randolph area. And so sponsors of the podcast, of the show, and that's what we believe is in preaching Christ, salvation, deliverance, repentance, yes, discipleship, church planting, and but these are the kind of people that God brings into the church. It's people who are in need, who are desperate, lost, been through stuff, and that's what we focus on working with and helping with. So today we have a great episode for you today. I have my good friend.
Sir.
I've known Pastor Daniel for quite a bit of years now. How many years have I known you, Daniel? It's been a grip.
It's been some time.
It's been some time. Great respect for this man, Daniel, and his wife Jessica. I've known them since they were in the church as parishioners, then leaders in the mother church. Eventually getting sent out into New Braunfels, Texas, to pastor the church there in New Braunfels, which, by the way, was the first church plant out of our mother church in Northeast San Antonio, out of Pastor Ben Rodriguez.
Praise God.
And so they pastored that church. Great testimony, powerful testimony, him and his wife. Great respect for this man. And so we want to welcome you today, Daniel. Welcome. Right. Thank you for coming and being here with us.
Greatly appreciate the privilege.
Awesome.
Yes,
And so, Casey, am I missing anything so far?
You're here on your own free will. We didn't make you do any of
yes,
this,
no.
right?
Yes. So one of the things we want to mention is, you know, if you heard Angela's testimony, Angela Tadin's testimony, she talked about some pretty severe, intense stuff that it was like, I know how people are, I know how people think, and it's like, why would you make them say that? You know, that's some personal, serious. Well,
That's not
these
what we're
people,
about.
and that's not what we're about. But that's what these people believe in God, that God can help people with their testimonies.
Yes.
They're not ashamed of it. Yeah, it was difficult, but they understand that there was a purpose behind what they've been through, and so everything Daniel will share today is something that he's doing out of his free will. His wife knows about this. It's something they agreed to share because they believe it can help someone. So,
Amen.
So as we kick this off, Daniel, I want you just to give me a little bit of a background of your life, just growing up as a child and leading into the dynamic of you know, your parents, things of that sort. But let's go as far as you can as a child.
All right. Well, same story. I grew up San Antonio, Texas. Dad left us when I was two, left me and my mom alone. I had two older sisters, but they were already out of the house by then. Grew up, mother tried to raise a boy. She was trying to do her best, working a full-time job, going to school at night. So I came home to an empty house. Nothing. You know, I had nobody there.
Yep.
And so, of course, you always turn to friends. You know, friends go run the streets and come home. I'd do my homework. You know, I was a straight A student. I'd come home, do my homework, and then go hit the streets. And one of my friends, you know, said, you know, we got some weed. So I'm fourth grade, 9 years old. So he starts pinching his brother's sacks. And so we started smoking weed. This right where Pastor Valerio lives. There were my woods. They were when I grew up. And so we'd be out there smoking weed. And of course, I was like 9 years old. That's gateway.
Yeah.
And always progresses. And then by 13 years old, I'm already snorting coke, drinking beer, running the streets, running the little neighborhood gangs.
Let me interject real quick. And so one of the things that he said, and I mean, I think this is very important to point out as we do these interviews. I mean, you know, he mentions real quick, right off the bat, father wasn't there.
Nah.
I mean, it's always, and I mean, I you know, first of all, I want to say from a personal perspective, like, and I don't even know if this is right to say or not. I mean, I guess Daniel could edit me out if it is not. I have no respect for men like that.
No.
Zero respect for deadbeat men, you know, fathers that are not there for their children. But this seems to be the common thing, man. And these kids that struggled, man, wives, women that struggled out there alone raising kids because, and I got to be careful what I say because then I get really, really, like, I go on a tirade, but because these men weren't there because they couldn't handle, they wouldn't, I don't even know what to say, man, but here it is, another example of a young child growing up without his dad, and mom's trying her best, doing, she's got children she's got to take care of, and then everything digresses horribly because of a lack of a father.
That's been majority of our testimony.
That's almost everybody that we talk to. It always, I had no dad. My dad wasn't there. My dad abandoned me, and so here you are. You're a little kid. You hit the streets. Mom's working.
Yes.
You're alone, and 9 years old. I have a son that's 10 years old. How old's Liam? I forgot. 11?
He's 11 now.
Okay, my son Liam is 11, man, AK to little Donald Trump.
I see you, Liam.
And, you know, when he was little, he had that hairstyle and stuff. And he's a child, man. And I'm hearing Daniel say this.
Yeah.
9 years old. Those are babies that don't have no one to take care of them. You know, these are victims, man. And this, if this can encourage somebody, like, man, take care of business, man.
No.
Please
take care of your families, man. You know, let God help you. But so here you are, 9 years old, drugs.
9 years old.
What is it, weed?
Smoking weed, yeah.
And then it progresses from there?
It's gateway, so we started 13, snorting coke. I mean, that's always easier to get than alcohol.
Okay, let me just say this, man.
Yeah.
I mean, 13 years old doing coke. I mean, I know there's people out there who say, oh, yeah, I've been through worse. That's not okay.
That's pretty extreme.
That's not okay to be a 13-year-old snorting cocaine. Like, God needs to get involved, man. So 13 years old, how did this cocaine thing come into play?
Just friends running with the street gangs. We were doing little neighborhood gangs, and that's what we did.
Can you say a street gang name?
Well, we were Southside Crip.
Southside Crip, okay.
Yeah. So I was hanging out with some guys, and that's what we were about. And of course, I started stealing and taking car stereos, and pretty much just robbing cars, just little breaking into little cars and thinking I was it. You know what I mean? And, and
do you think you was pretty slick at it?
I was slick, man. We used to do broad daylight, and it was dumb. We had this one, it would be a group of us during the summers, probably about 14, 15 of us kids. We were running over there in Lakeside, and I called ourselves the 40 Thieves, even though it was only like 14 of us. And no, that's what we were about. And so what it was when I would get in trouble in San Antonio, you know what I mean, get in trouble, we started hanging around with some Ambrose and DSG, and I would get in trouble. But, you don't make meetings, you get V's, right? So I started getting V'd up, and then I would just, they'd talk smack, I talk smack back, and then my issue was I always ran. When things got heavy, I would always run. I had family in different cities, so I would go back and forth. I was going Burleson, Texas. It's a little suburb, Fort Worth, so I'd go get in trouble here. My mom sent me to Fort Worth, so I'd be over there, mess around, and get in trouble over there, and then come back and forth. So
would it be the same thing?
Same thing, because it follows. You know what I mean?
Now, the whole gang life thing.
Yes.
I mean, were you into that gang life? Like, and the reason why I'm asking is because, I've known you when I met you, you were military.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that later, but you're military, and then I known you, as a disciple and pastor. were you into that gangs?
I think it was more or less just acceptance. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Man, when we were messing around, it was menace to society. I bought my first pistol. It was a little Jennings 25 for $20 in a car stereo.
Oh, wow.
And I used to carry that thing around wishing people would. You know what I mean? Everybody.
How old were you?
15.
15, strapped up, man.
And O-Dog. You remember O-Dog?
O-Dog.
Everybody wanted to be O-Dog.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go to McCreeless Mall, and
I remember that.
And it was God. Man, it was God. You know what I mean? God just protecting.
So 15 years old, strapped up.
Yeah. And
you're running around with a gun.
Yeah. Via bus and downtown River Center Mall, and just being dumb. Anyway, so I would get in trouble, go back and forth between Burleson, Johnson County, and then San Antonio. And then I'd come back and forth, and then finally just got in trouble. I was 16 years old, got my first, got a burglary habitation. And so I went, and that was it. I was in and out of juvie, a lot of theft and stuff like that, because I was a shoplifter. That's what was my favorite. I loved. In high school, I would get little orders from kids in school. They want Sega Genesis, Game Gear, and all this stuff like that. And I would go take my order, go to Walmart afterwards. Then I'd meet them at the Whataburger. Then I'd get my dope money, and then go party.
So that was hustling.
I was just shoplifter. So
how old was this?
I'd have been about 16, 17. I'm in high school about, I did I dropped out in ninth grade my third time. And so by that time, fast forward. I'm acid. We were doing acid like every day at school.
Oh, wow.
We were getting hits like for $2. So it was cheap, and so it was ample. Running around over there, Johnson County, and then just started messing around. I got caught. I was 18, got caught for theft over $500. I was all Xanaxed out, and we just walking around Walmart, just stuck in stuff in my pockets. Got caught, and then just misdemeanor theft over $500, and gave me, what do you call it, probation. Had probation, then messed up, and I ran to San Antonio, and that's when started hanging over here for a while. That's when I was hanging out with my nephew, Victor Año. And so he started going, taking me to his neighborhood, and that's Kenwood. That's where we would hang out over there in Kenwood and do stupid things. We were breaking into cars, taking cars, robbing houses. My nephew's crazy. He's going to do awesome things for God. I know it. And so that's when I met my brother-in-law, my future brother-in-law, named Sergio. We call him Gene. He's called Bishop. So it's my brother-in-law. He's a good guy. Well, God's going to do a miracle in his life. So I'm just hanging around with Gene. Gene's starting to show me how to steal cars, pop columns, and we're just out there. We're just running amok.
Is this still gang-related stuff?
They were Kenwood. They were Kenwood, but I was just a outsider. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was literally off of them, off of their strength. I was there because strangers don't go in there. You know what I mean? It's funny. They got this call. I don't know about now, but they used to got this call and go, ooh, ooh. Then you'd hear, killer, and then they would mass up wherever that ooh, ooh was. And if you weren't from there, you don't want to be around there. And so that's where I met them. And we used to just be hanging out at the park and smoking weed. And then it just started slowly progressing. I had went back to, and that's where I met my wife, Jessica.
So how was you connected to Bishop?
She's Bishop's sister.
Okay.
So his younger sister.
Okay.
And so we were just hanging out first. She was funny, and what was crazy is that she used to see me with all these hood rats, all these nasty hood rats, and I don't know why, but she would just chit chat with me. You know what I mean? And just, I don't know. I used to I had the little backpack, carried a little sawed-off 20 gauge in there. I had some little, little bit of bud in there, hacksaws, and just, that's what I had, my little clothes.
Stay ready.
Yeah, and my brother-in-law and me, we used to do a lot of stupid stuff. We'd be all over town, and
now you mentioned you did juvenile time.
Yes.
How much time did you do in juvie?
No, the most I've ever did in my life was about 3 months straight.
Okay.
That was off of theft. So.
Okay. And no prison time.
No prison time.
Okay.
No prison time. That 16 when I was 16 with the burglary habitation, that got expunged.
Okay.
So that was God's grace.
Praise God.
And so I had went back because I was on the run for that misdemeanor probation. So I went back. Excuse me. I went back to over there to visit my family in Fort Worth, and that's when I got caught, and I ended up doing that 3 months. So it was during that time I stayed there about a year, and that's when everybody over there just started going crazy. They started getting big times, heavy times, getting caught for burglary habitations, getting caught for auto thefts, controlled substance, and so I know God spared me because I was doing the same things with them. And so I was over here and just being a bum in Burleson, not really doing nothing with my life. And I remember calling Jessica up just out of nowhere. Just called her up. She had an apartment over there by North Star, and she was just telling me everything that happened. And
how old were you now?
18.
Okay.
18. So after that, I just went back to San Antonio and started hanging out with Sergio again and my brother-in-law, and started getting crazier things. That time, Gene actually went away for I think it went away for 2 years, and I was running with some other friends and doing other things. I thought I was big time, but I was a lackey. You know what I mean? I would hold things, I would move things on via. Really thought I was somebody, but I was, the fall guy.
Yeah.
You look back at it,
like a crash test dummy.
Yeah, I was a fall guy, and so, anyways. Started getting crazy into that. Jessica started coming around a little bit more, and then we started actually getting together. And that was. So
is this still just gang-related, like basic neighborhood gang-related stuff, or is this progressing to something more of a criminal, like
organization, enterprise?
Nah, I never really went too far. Yeah, it was just small time, and. I started, messing around with stuff like that, and I would just trying to be careful right now. We got family. We got family in that, and
well, I mean, so only share what you think is safe.
We just hang out over there, and then she started coming around more, and one day I knew it was her. We're at the park, man. There's about 80 of us, and some guys, they came over, about 3 dudes trying to sell some weed, and one of the friends, he took it, and they wanted to buck up, and then it just, ooh, ooh. Mm. And it was about 80 killer bees on them guys, man. It was horrible. So I'm helping this one guy into his car. I'm helping this one guy into the car, and I turn around, and I see Jessica. This dude's laid out, and Jessica's over there. She picks this wallet up out of his pocket, takes out the money, and says, "You needed a wallet, right?" And I said, that's when I knew. Yeah, she hates
that's
that.
a wifey, right?
Yes, she hates that story. But
it's meant to be.
Yeah, so no, it was crazy. That's when she started coming over to the house. I was living at my mom's house, and we were there. And once that, I used to just leave her there days at a time. I'd go out and do stupid stuff. And by that time,
y'all weren't married. Y'all were just dating.
Shacking up. She had dropped out of high school. I dropped out of high school a long time before that. And she was just there, you know what I mean? She was just there, and man, we started doing crazy stuff. Insurance jobs, just little stuff here and there, and
you mean like fraudulent stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
We're still in car theft and still doing that, and
but not you and Jessica.
No, not Jessica.
You and your friends.
No, yeah, just me and some people, and so we got into it, man. Drugs were a normal part of our lives. I would come home and I'd be standing there by the blinds for hours at a time, and she would sit there yelling at me, cussing. And I'm thinking ATF. I'm thinking all these people in the bushes and
shadow people.
Yeah, shadow people, death monsters.
So in the midst of all this stuff you're doing, these crimes, whatever, drugs are running rampant in your life.
Yeah, that was a big part of my life.
So what meth? What is it?
Meth, I started getting big in heroin. It was black tar. We used to get that and put it in a spoon, put some water in it, snort on that. Mm-hmm. And you think about it, that's almost there. I'm almost there to shooting up. I'm literally almost there. It was about a whole month. I was doing it straight. And by that time, we were counterfeiting money, and I was waiting. We were planning for Fiesta. So what I would do is get some bills, give it to the neighborhood kids, go get an ice cream, bring me back the change. So that's why I was cashing them out, and we were planning.
And it would work?
Yeah. And we were planning for Fiesta. So there was about this time we were planning for Fiesta, and I was going to go get the little I mean,
you were doing some good counterfeit money if it was working.
No, it was.
We need to talk.
No, so it was about that time. I came home one day, and I had a stack, and we're doing stuff, and I came home, and it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking on the phone, and Jessica comes, sits down, and says, "I'm pregnant," and I'm like, and it took a split second, and then I said, "You know what? Come pick up this stuff. Come pick up this. I don't want any of this." And so I had other things besides, I was holding, like I said, I was a lackey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was a fall guy. So, and people came, picked up that stuff, and that's what it was. And so fast forward, they went to the doctors, and they were telling us to have an abortion because the baby could come out Down syndrome. And right away, man, heroin, that's what I'm thinking about in my head, you know what I mean? And so I did. Only thing I knew to do was cry out to the VDN, you know what I mean? So I cried out to the Virgin Mary. I said, I don't want to kill this baby, I don't want to kill this baby. And so I promised the VDN. I said I won't do no drugs. And so that didn't last long, but baby came out perfect. Smart. And
this is
Miriam. Yeah. So and then of course went back to the drugs. I wasn't out there doing stuff. You know what I mean? I stopped. Actually got a job. Started working at a Denny's, and still smoking weed, drinking beer and stuff like that. But I literally stopped going out. I stopped going out, and I was there with her. And there was times, man. I remember one time a friend of mine came up. I was running 3 deep in the car. They came up, loaded, and asked me if I wanted to go robbing. And so I'm sitting there, me and Jessica. She's not my wife yet. She's pregnant with my baby, and we're doing yard work in my mom's house. And it was literally, I was in the middle of the yard. These guys are in the driveway in their car, ready to go rob. And it's literally a fork in the road right there. And I remember, I said, "No, I'm good, man. Go ahead." They ended up knocking over like 4 convenience stores, got like $2,400. Next time I saw my friend was 9 years old. Miriam was 9 years old. So that was God really helping me out. So
now, are you okay? So you're saying God, but was God really in the picture, like, or you're just saying that?
I'm just saying that it just
like looking back.
Yeah, looking back.
Yeah.
Looking back, I know it had to have been God's.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Which
because,
I agree. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, because I would have went. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, but I just said I'll just wait. Yeah. So anyways, fast forward. Me and Jessica, baby gets born. I'm there for a while. And then I would just leave. You know what I mean? I would just leave. And then looking back on it, it was a generational curse, man. My dad's dad left him at a young age. I left my daughter. I mean, he left me at 2. Then I left my daughter at a young age. And I'd be in and out of their life. And Jessica would work. And I would just pretty much watch the kids smoke weed all day.
So in and out of their lives, when you were out of their lives, what were you doing? Just
I would go binges. I would be in Fort Worth just smoking, just binging, not working a job, not helping them. I was just a deadbeat dad, you know what I mean? Deadbeat dad, never helped.
So you was
out.
working to like support your habit and stuff?
Well, just make money. I wasn't paying no bills. You know, I just party and
what is this, heroin?
Just whatever.
Everything, whatever I could get my hands on. You know,
wow.
It was I was a functioning. You know, I was a functioning. So I lived with my sister. My sister would lie for me, cover up for me, and you know that's how family is. And fast forward. Elijah. She's pregnant with Elijah. I leave him at 3 months old. Wow. And so I'm out. I'm living in Harlingen now. And now this is like some of the worst time in my life. I remember just suicidal thoughts. And that when I was smoking a lot of crack over there. Cocaine is cheap down there. So that's what it was. This is about 2003. And that's when Jessica got saved. And so... I mean, it's literally been in and out of her life, in and out of my kid's life.
How did the crack come into be? I mean, I know we hear about crack and stuff, and it's like crack is like, man, like
that stuff is horrible.
Like,
that stuff is horrible.
How did that come into play? I mean,
it's just because you're just sitting there snorting lines, and then it's like, well, I'm gonna rock it up. So
nose hurting.
Yeah, rocking it up.
It's horrible.
You weren't selling it. You were just rocking it up for your own use.
I sold weed. You know what I mean? I sold weed, but I got high on my own supply. I was a bad drug dealer. I couldn't budget. I couldn't budget. So I actually did get approached by some people wanting to push white, and I said, honestly, man, you will find me in a creek because I know I'll snort it all. Yeah. You know what I mean? And anyway, so Harlingen, Texas, she gets saved, and I remember it's about this time she starts talking about God, this church, and all this and all that, and I remember it was we were in South Padre. I'm drunk out of my mind. I'm drinking Natty Light, have no business out in the ocean. And I remember she was out there, and it was me, her, and my nephew, and we're out there swimming. That tide takes us way out, and she goes under. And I remember I used to hate her. She was my biggest enemy in my head. You know, she was just a big enemy of mine. And she went under twice. And I remember I picked her up, and I drug her back to the shore. And I remember just looking up at the sky, man. It was the most beautiful sky I've ever seen before. But it was just crazy things. So God starts coming into my mind, but it's been a while. Let me
ask you a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
So you said you used to hate her. Who? Jessica?
I used to hate
Why?
Jessica. Really just didn't trust her for whatever reason. I mean, I wasn't faithful. And so what I found out later is the liar always thinks he's getting lied to. The cheater always thinks he's getting cheated on. And so that's what I found.
So that's where that manifested?
That's where it was.
And how many kids do you have by now?
By now, I had 2.
Yeah, 2.
2,
Okay.
yeah.
And you're not married yet?
No, we're married. We're married
now.
We've been married for, we got married 2010, so we were probably married about 4 years. Okay. 3 years by the time she got saved. Now,
if you can, and I mean, so if you can look back, Daniel, I mean, this is just to help people. We understand sin nature.
Yes.
You know, but what could you say? I mean, was it the fact that wasn't there that spiraled this all of control like this?
Yeah, I know it had to be more than that. It was just my own doing.
No structure and
no
stuff
structures.
Like
no. The only examples of a role male models were 2 drunk brother-in-laws, and that was pretty much it. You know, and didn't know what a man looked like. You know what I mean? A man was somebody who bossed other people around, macho guy. That's pretty much what I was going off of. So didn't have, excuse me, nothing to give the kids like that, So she ends up getting saved at the Potter's house, and I used to make her life heck, man. She would tell me she's going to church Sunday night, but nobody goes to church Sunday night. She used to tell me she'd go to church Wednesday night. Nobody goes to church Wednesday night. And so I used to make her life heck. And
what do you mean by, what would you do?
She would come back and I would beat her. I mean, I was verbally, physically, mentally, every kind of abuse you could think of.
Why? What was your justification for that?
She was cheating. She was cheating on me. And she had told me this one recently, is that one day I'm wondering where she's at. I come home and I said, "Where were you?" I'm yelling at her, cussing at her. She just got home from church and I come running at her. She said I was running at her, just running at her. And she busts off in tongues. Just closing her eyes. And then after a while, she opened her eyes and I wasn't there. And she looks downstairs and I'm pulling out my little truck, just taking off. So I don't remember a lot of stuff that she used to tell me. I mean, she used to say that one time we were pulling up to my mom's house and I ran. There was 2 people parked across the street. And I ran over there yelling on them, beating on their car. I don't know these people. I mean, I went off in these episodes,
Drugs.
I don't understand a lot of stuff. Yeah. So,
but drug induced. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure it was more than that.
I'm sure spiritual, but
yeah.
but all linked to drug use and battles in your own heart, mind, things of that sort.
Yeah, she used to wake up to me choking her. She used to literally just wake up from sleep and I'd be choking her, and like in my mind, she was messing around. You know what I mean? And that's what, when I would go to the church, you know what I mean? That's what I was going to go see, is who's she messing around with, And so that's pretty much what it was. And then I was doing landscaping at the time. Doing landscaping, I would go knock on doors, tell, hey, I'll mow your yard, cut your trees and all that. So I was doing it on my own. And got burned. I mean, I was making good money. I wasn't paying bills, though. That was my money. You know what I mean? She was paying bills. And one day I had got burned for $80. And so I went back to that house. They literally left town. So I went back to the house, and I jacked up them trees. Man, I cost that lady probably about $600, $700 worth of damage. I was so ticked off that I just got in my truck, and I went to the recruiter. Didn't talk to nobody about nothing, joined the Army. And it was literally, that's how I lived my life. I didn't think about nothing. I just went and did it. And so.
How old were you at this time?
27. I joined the Army at 27 and went to basic training. And that was 2005. So she's been saved for about 5 years by now. Right? About 5 years. So, no, I'm sorry, about 3 years, 2-3 years. So I'm in the Army and coming in and out, and, we're trying to make things work. I ended up going to Laredo, Texas. I was on Operation Jumpstart over there on the border. She's still serving God. And I would try to live with her, and she would have friends from the church come over, and nobody was allowed in my house. And they would pray for me. I'd go over there, and, it was just back and forth.
What would you think about those people that were from the church?
They're fake, crazies.
Now, where does the fake come from? Like, were you thinking fake because maybe you experienced fake people like that before?
No, I'd never been to no Christian church like that. Okay. It's just that stereotype. Everybody's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So went with that in mind. I remember she used to tell me about the tithe, and I'm like, man, you just paying that pastor's Cadillac note. That's what I used to tell her. I used to think Pastor Ben was a pimp. I used to say, yeah, he's got a Cadillac and his wife got a matching Cadillac, and you're just paying that with your tithe. But yeah, it was.
Now, did you visit the church? I mean, I remember I was already sent out, but I remember one day we were there for like a revival, and I saw you there, but you weren't saved.
Yeah.
And I remember someone pointing out to me like that's Jessica's husband. Like, you can pray for him, XYZ. And I remember I I remember I went up to you and I was like, hey, what's up, bro? You know, just kind of said hi, and you were kind of like, you know, kind of just like whatever. Yeah. And so you visited the church several times, or
yeah, like I said, I just went to go see who she was messing around with, and
then you didn't see nothing going on weird. So what would you think at that point?
Did that make you mad?
It made me mad because I couldn't find nothing.
Yeah, it's like, man, I ain't catch it.
And she's catching me left and right, and yeah, I mean, 10 years of our marriage, man, she's caught me text messages, hickeys. She's caught me dirty dog, and she would just pray, you know.
And she hung. And I mean, I don't want to reveal too much about her because we're going to interview her.
Yeah, that is powerful.
But I mean, I think it's so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, that your marriage endured. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's just amazing, man.
Yeah. No, I had went. Yeah, it was rough. We were hard-headed. I mean, literally, our marriage was based on our kids. It was founded on our kids. She grew up without, you know, I don't want to go into her detail, but she grew up without mother and father in the home. I grew up without a mother and father in the home, and we had made it a point where we want our kids to have a mother and father. I mean, we literally fought to tooth and nail just to have that happen, but it wasn't.
In the military, did the drug abuse stop?
The drinking started because yeah.
So drugs went out.
You're surrounded
stopped,
by
but
people
now it's alcohol.
Yeah, that's alcohol. So I would wait until I get a piss test. Once I get whiz quiz, I would smoke for about 2 months.
Weed.
Yeah, I'd smoke weed about 2 months. Then I get clean because it could be random after that. So, I mean, there's plenty of times when I was in Iraq, man. We were smoking weed, drinking beer. We were drinking out there.
Now you were in real combat over there in Iraq.
Well, we were doing missions.
Okay.
And yeah, it wasn't like World War II. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just say this real quick. Let me just say this, and I mean, and I've said this before. You look at Daniel's life. This man, a pastor, he's been through stuff. Military, was in real combat, yet God could get a hold of his life. Yeah. Like, there's hope for people. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, the reason why is because I've spoken to people who that they say, like, no, you know, this man was in real combat. Real combat. You know what I'm saying? And yet, he saw things, did things, been through things, and yet, God could still get a hold of his life and give him hope and change his life. I don't know how to say it, man. Like if there was someone that has an excuse not to live for God, it'd be someone like Daniel. But yet, God still got a hold of him. You know what I'm saying? And did great things and has done great things and is doing great things in his life, in his marriage, in his ministry, in his church, things of that sort. And that just goes to prove the power of God, man. Because I hear a lot of these flunkies, man. These people, man, flunkies, little flurries, you know, that make every excuse to why they can't live for God, why they can't do things right. And it's doesn't even come close or compare to the kind of stuff that this man's been through or the kind of stuff that his wife's been through. Yet they still made it for Jesus, still doing great things for God. They can see God's providence and provision in their life. Powerful stuff. And if there was people that had excuses why not, it'd be these people, like Daniel and Jessica. But they don't. And they've seen God do great things. And I just want to say that because I've heard people I know people have been through less, and they act like their world just ended. You know what I'm saying? And there's people that have been through some serious stuff, man, like real serious detrimental stuff, and yet God can do great miracles through them. So don't give me that lame excuse. You know, I get tired of all these lame excuse nonsense bull from people that I can't live for God or whatever. You don't understand. Well, take hope from these examples from these people, man. You know, who legitimately could have made the excuse and didn't. You know what I mean? And God got a hold of them and did great things and is still doing great things. I just want to throw that in there, Danny.
All right, not a problem. Yeah, so it was in Iraq, actually, which I found out later. My wife was praying, God, put him around godly men, put him around Christians. And it was in Iraq, it was in my unit, a man named Frankie Rodriguez, Frank the Tank, real Christian. I mean, this is the realest Christian I've met in my life. You know what I mean? We would be making jokes. We'd be watching porn. You know what I mean? We'd be doing soldier stuff, and he would exclude himself. And he would, you know, he didn't speak like we did. He carried himself differently. There was a piece about Frank. And I remember one time, man, he's dropping weight. he's dropping weight. And I'm like, what's going on, Frank? You okay? So he was fasting like 30 days. He only eat a handful of nuts, you know what I mean? Peanuts and stuff like that. And so he, you know, and something always gravitated me towards this man. I'd be like just sitting there spilling my guts, man, my marriage, this and that, Frank. And he was like, oh, they used to call me Alfie. He said, Alfie, man, you need to get a hold of God. Jesus needs to help you. You know, Jesus can help you. And I'd be like, no, I'm good, Frank. Thank you. I appreciate it. But it would always gravitate towards him. So, came back. I mean, I was gripped by fear there in Iraq, man, because you'd be asleep and then you'd come under attack. And so right away, you can't sleep. You know what I mean? There's just fear gripping you. Came home with that PTSD. I had actually went to the VA. I said, I need help, man. I'm hyper aggressive. I'm having night terrors. I'm verbally, physically abusive to my wife. I remember one time, me and my daughter, she's young. We're watching TV in the living room, and a car door slams outside. I grab my gun and I jump to the ground, and she starts laughing at me. You know what I mean? But I'm start cussing her out and all that, making her cry, and just having issues. You know. And I went to the VA. This is about 2009. When they were sweeping all the veterans underneath the rug, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I went in there, and this little man behind a desk, probably never been fearful in his life. You know, he looked in my eyes, and he said, you don't have PTSD. Smiled, closed my file. That was the last time I went back to the VA. So I continued to self-medicate, smoking weed, drinking beer, and I was still in the military. And, it was about 2010. It was about 2:30 in the morning. Me and Jessica, I was done. I was already talking to an ex-girlfriend of mine in Fort Worth. She'd tell me, whenever you want, just come on, live back. She had money. She had, you know what I mean? So I was going to literally go move. I was already packed up to go. And it was that day. It was a Wednesday. I had went to Houston, went and dropped off some equipment to a sister unit over there. And that whole time, Frank was with me in the car.
Oh wow!
That's about 4 hours there.
Hour of prayer.
He witnessed to me the whole way there and the whole way back. It was about 2:30 in the morning. After that day, I'm already ready to go. I'm gonna try to go for a unit transfer, and then it was about 2:30 in the morning. I'm downstairs all by myself. Jessica's tired of fighting. We had argued the whole night before, and I had just turned around, man, saw about 4 or 5 demons behind me, these big old shadow figures. And then I just said, I can't live like this. So I cried out to God, and I remember crying, yelling to Jessica, get down here. And I remember her face, because she came downstairs just wore out. She was tired of fighting. She was 6 years, you know, 6 years of arguing, getting beat, just always just fearful. What is he going to say next? What is he going to do next? So she comes down the stairs, and her face, you could just tell she's given up everything. She's just like, what? And I said, help me pray. And then just her whole countenance just like
changed.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
She couldn't, you know what I mean? She couldn't comprehend what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I said, just help me pray. And so she sat there crying on the stairs. So, yeah. So that was January 7th, 2010. It was about 2:30 in the morning. And
praise God.
So I had told my buddy Frank what happened, you know what I mean? And I know he was praying for me too. And I know everybody else was praying for me at the mother church. Because I know I had relationships with Pastor William Summers, who was just a regular guy there. He was a Bible study leader. I, somewhat talked to him, Juan Uribe, and you know what I mean? And it just had conversations with him. And I know they were praying. I know Pastor Ben was praying too, because she would, I hear later that she was always in counseling with him. You know what I mean? He's always helping her out. You know, she didn't always do what he had said. When I was in Iraq, she found out I had a MySpace account. And so I called it MySpace Pimpin'. She wouldn't send me alcohol to Iraq. So I would get online. I made this profile, and I copied and pasted and everything, made it personal. And I would just, random girls would, get a hold of me, and then I would just make up a story, and they would send me alcohol.
Oh, wow.
And she found an ex-girlfriend of mine. She found out where she lived and everything like that. And Pastor Ben said, you need to leave her alone. And she, I can't, Pastor, I can't. So she took my kids to that lady's work and just went over there and popped off 4 of her tires. That's why I love her. You know what I mean? That's why I love her. Everybody always looks at her like Mother Teresa. Tires for you. But she got down when she needed to. She fought for her marriage, and now she's reaping the rewards of that. Yeah, so I got saved, and I remember I was telling Frank, hey, I'm going to go to your church, Frank. I'm going to go to your church. His church was on the west side. I went to that Sunday morning. When that Sunday morning I went there, man, it was just, no, I didn't feel nothing there. You know what I mean? And no offense, Frank, it just wasn't home. And then I told Jessica, no, we're going to go to this church. That's our church now. We're going to go over there. And she went and told Pastor Ben, and Pastor Ben said, give it about 6 months and see what we go, and see what we do. And then I had came back, and I said, you know what, we're going to go to your church tonight. And they were having a Mark Sanderlin revival. And I went there, and I...
R.I.P. Mark Sanderlin.
Yeah, Mark Sanderlin. And bowed my knee at the altar. I went up there, bowed my knee at the altar, and I remember when I got up, man, my soul within me said, I'm home. And that's that.
That's amazing.
How many years have you and your wife been married now?
We just celebrated our 21st anniversary.
Praise God.
Wow, praise God, man. Congratulations.
The 11 years, these 11 years building our marriage, the foundation on Jesus, been the best, and it's getting better.
Yeah.
She's my best friend. I used to look at her as my worst enemy. And now we're over there fighting demons.
Yep.
Fighting demons together. And it's like...
So 21 years of marriage.
21 years of marriage.
Wow,
10 years, man, verbally, physically, mentally abusive, unfaithful, you know.
I remember before you came in the church, you know, my wife would tell me, you know, hey, man, pray for Jessica's husband, man, XYZ, you know, because she would hear from other ladies in the church to pray for you. You know, she's going through the stuff and everything. And, you know, we would hear some of the stuff. And I was like, dang, man, that's some crazy stuff, man, you know. And to see what God has done in your life, in y'all's life, but in your life, man, I'm like, how can someone say there is no hope, man? You know, how can, you know, and I mean, and you know that there's people that go through stuff like this all the time, go through this stuff even right now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, how long have you been saved total?
Got 11 years on me.
It's been 11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
How many years you been pastoring now?
4 years.
4 years.
Praise
Okay.
God.
11 years saved, 11 years sober.
Praise
Awesome.
God.
Yeah.
And so you got saved, and I mean, to me, the way it seems to me is it's almost like Paul, you know, is you got saved and it was like God just accelerated your life.
A lot of it was her exampleship. Jessica's exampleship. She was faithful to church. So I said, we're going to be in church.
Let me just real quick before he continues further, listen to what he just said, folks. Wives out there struggling with stuff like this, listen to what he said. Coming from this man's mouth, what helped him accelerate his walk with God was his wife's exampleship. You know, and from a pastor perspective, let me tell you something. Your exampleship matters. Your example matters, and he might not be saved or he might be not totally there, but your exampleship matters, and you think you have the luxury to goof off and not be right, not be a Christian, not do things right because he's not right. Take it from this man who is saying what made it possible was my wife's exampleship. Go on.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Now she'd proven herself. I mean, there was some times where she would. This was early on in her salvation. I'd be like, man, you don't have to go to church Wednesday night. Just stay with me. Stay with me. You know, we'll be a family. We'll go out to eat. And she would say, okay. And then we would argue the whole night. And then she would be like, man, I ain't doing that again. So after a while of me doing that, she just said nope. And then she would go to church. She'd come back, get beat. And then she would just continually doing it. And then that was it. Another example was when she had, one time, long time ago, She was tithing, and I remember I was a drug addict, man. I was going through her purse, and I found an envelope, and as I pulled it out of her purse, she's coming down the stairs, and she goes, "Not the tithe, not my tithe." And I started fighting her for it. And I remember I slammed her head against the wooden door, and she just straight knocked out. And I'm going through her purse, because I'm going to go party. I'm going through her purse, and she says, "Not my tithe, take the rent." And those little stands that she made, you know what I mean? Those little stands that she made when I got saved. I got saved on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I got paid that Friday. I asked her, "What's the tithe?" And I paid my first tithe that Sunday.
Praise God.
And that's her exampleship, it was her exampleship. And that's helped me, that's helped me. And then just knowing that, she's going to be with me and we're going to do it together. So,
Amen.
And then you answered, and then how, I mean, and I know there's a lot more to your story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more detail and stuff, and maybe we can get a little bit more of that from your wife's perspective. But, I mean, dude. I mean, I'm hearing you talk, bro, and it's just like it's affected me, dude. You know what I mean? To hear you say those words.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And I wish so many other people could hear that, and I'm hoping that they do to this. But
yeah.
So here you are, bro, and then where does the call come in? I mean, the answering the call. I mean, from where you came from to where you're at today, I mean, I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about covering real quick, because this is the issue that I have with women in our church, actually. They come in, and their husbands don't want to serve God, but they're coming to church, they're being faithful. And I'm saying, right now, your example, you are the covering, you're the spiritual covering over this household.
Praise
I said,
God.
don't give it up, because the day's going to come when your husband gets saved, and that transfer is going to happen. Because I remember when I took the covering, I took the spiritual covering from my wife, because she bore it for 6 years. She was the spiritual. She prayed for the house. She made sure the kids knew Jesus, knew about God. They went to went to church. And
Galatians 6:9.
Yes, sir.
Go where you're doing good.
And she and I remember the day that I prayed, "Satan, if you want to come against my family, you have to go through me." I remember that day I prayed. I remember that day I prayed that prayer. So I'm saved about, and it takes a while. Jessica still didn't trust me, you know what I mean? She was checking my phone messages, checking my gas mileage, checking my texts, checking my bank account. She was checking. And I remember it took about 3 months. 3 months. And I remember one day we're at a fellowship. I'm like, "Hey, we're going to go street preaching." And she goes, okay. Yeah, she's talking, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I remember that day that she trusted me, you know what I mean? And do not want to break that for nothing, because it's peaceful to sleep at night. So, yeah, but I'm saved about 3 months, and we're in, Pastor Ben is doing a Sunday school in the tabernacle, and he's talking about the roles in the church, and that's when God spoke to me about a calling. See, I thought it was just going to church, being a good person, not drinking, not smoking, reading the Bible. You know what I mean? I didn't understand about destiny, didn't understand about calling, didn't understand about that. And God laid that on my heart.
How did that translate into your heart? I mean, the calling, how did that?
It gave me purpose. It gave me dignity. That I'm called, I'm saved, and I could look back at my life, all these times where God's grace was on me. I was doing the same things people were doing, and they ended up going to jail that night. You know what I mean? One time we're in the creek, Indian Creek, and this was the Father's Day, the day before the Father's Day before I became a father. And we're out there, and we called it the Father's Day Massacre. Man, things happened that day, and it was just bad. And I was in the backseat of a cop car, and it was strong arm robberies. I mean, it was crazy charges. And cop, instead of putting us up in a lineup, the cop asked for ID. And so I'm a crackhead. I got no throat, no neck or nothing. And my ID, I was kind of a little hefty. And by that ID, I was able to get out. You know what I mean? It was just God's grace just all over the place. And just knowing that God's grace had been on me where I hadn't, when I used to go preach in the prisons, I remember the first time, because I used to go by myself, I just liked that. And when I came out, I was just walking out of a Hondo unit, and I was just like, man, God, thank you that I could walk out of this place. And it's just, it's awesome. And I really believe that every man, woman, and child is created for a purpose, and they have a role and a function in the kingdom of God, and that God has given them gifts to complete that task, and it's up to them to find out what it is.
And when you're talking about purpose and calling, I mean, did you actually feel like God, or did God impress upon your heart? Like I remember, like with me, like I remember God speaking to me very clearly. Like I was seeing a pastor preach. His name was Dan Callinger, and I remember God speaking to me very clearly, like that's what I want from you.
Awesome.
Is that the way it will happen with you?
Well, me, more or less, it was Pastor Ben was talking about the roles in the church. God has given us pastors. God has given us teachers. And as right as before he was going to say evangelist, the Holy Ghost dropped that on me, evangelist. And so I know in our fellowship we have to, you know what I mean, the process of building ministry and proving faithfulness. And so, but that's what I've always aimed my life for. You know what I mean? I love ministering to people. I love seeing people healed. I love seeing people encouraged. I love seeing people given words. You know what I mean? I love going up to a complete stranger on the street, reading their mail, praying for them, and seeing them get healed. I love that. That stirs my heart. You know what I mean?
We did at the restaurant the other night.
Yes.
We prayed for this lady for some healing.
That lady got healed of leukemia.
Praise God.
That lady got healed of leukemia about 4 or 5 years ago. She had backslid from that church, and that's when I had saw her. And then as well, me and Casey were praying for her, so it was real good.
Praise God, man. So now you and your wife are pastoring the church in New Braunfels, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And so just want to give a shout out to the church there in New Braunfels. If you're watching this episode and you know anyone in the New Braunfels area needs help, hope, listen to this man's testimony, and you can find help there at their church.
Share it.
New Braunfels,
The Door,
New Braunfels, Texas. You can look them up. They're there. They have a website, right?
Yes, sir.
Pastor Daniel Alfaro, his wife Jessica Alfaro, and pastoring a thriving church there, doing a great job. Him and his wife and his children, and just a powerful testimony. I mean, I can't even say it enough, man. I don't even know how to express it. Like, there's some heavy stuff, bro.
It inspired me.
There's some pretty heavy, serious stuff, man. That as you're saying this, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, I've dealt with this from a pastoral perspective, but to hear you, I've known you, as a saved man, as a disciple. I've known you as then as eventually as a pioneer pastor, pastoring and stuff. And to hear you say these things, my brain doesn't even compute them, because I've never known you. I mean, I've known you as a military man, but to hear all this stuff, and I know the testimony, but I'm like, I can't even envision that, man. And it sounds, the stuff you're saying, man, is so heartfelt, man. Like it's some heavy stuff, and you can feel the Holy Ghost, man, as you're speaking, man. It's just some powerful stuff, bro. Yeah. And I believe God's gonna help some people, maybe even bring deliverance to some people. And I mean, you deal with this all the time as a pastor. Yeah, I deal with this all the time, marriage problems, marriage issues, and the common mentality and thread is that it's no hope, like it's never gonna change.
Yeah, you need to fight for your marriage.
Fight for your marriage.
Fight for your marriage.
And perfect example of that is this. And we're going to be interviewing Pastor Daniel Alfaro's wife, Jessica, in the next episode. And so I think pretty much that concludes. How much time we got, Daniel? Where are we at? Okay. And so we're going to conclude the episode there.
Yes,
is
sir.
there anything that you want to add that you think it's important to say that maybe we didn't touch on?
Men, step up. Your children, they're following after your example. Your children are sponges. They're soaking up what you're giving them. They're mirrors. They're going to reflect you. Husbands, wives, fight for your marriage. God put you together for a reason, and don't give up. Don't give up.
Awesome.
Praise
Powerful.
God.
Thank you, Daniel, for coming on.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're going to go ahead and check out. This is your host, Luis Perez, a.k.a. Huicho Breach, Demon Killer, and, of course, my co-host,
Casey Case.
And so
We out.
when you see this, when you hear this, forward it to someone, share it with someone.
Please.
Let someone know about the podcast Life Speaks, and give people some hope. And we are out. We'll see you in the next one.